News. Just before we go there, we've got time to tell you about something on tomorrow night's programme that'll have the memories just flooding back for you.
This is your all-day music station, Radio Caroline South, on 259 metres in the medium wave band. Britain's only...
Yes, it was a pirate radio station off the East Coast. Radio Caroline is celebrating its 50th anniversary and will be taking a trip down memory lane and speaking to some of those involved in the very early days.
Yeah, it is an absolutely brilliant story. We're going to be finding out how it changed the sound of broadcasting. We'll also hear about plans for the station's future as well. It's going to be a spectacular report. That's it. I'll be back with an update at 10:30, but for now, from the whole team here at ITV News Anglia, thanks for watching us.
Mary and Alistair are here in just a moment, but from the two of us and the whole team, goodbye.
Bye now.
So we will say welcome you back to the lunchtime show.
Well, I'm very proud that I played a very small part in changing the sound of radio, really, to what it is today.
We just had the freedom of the airwaves, and it was just marvellous to be a part of that.
This is your all-day music station, Radio Caroline South, on 259 metres in the medium wave band. Britain's
DJs ad-libbing between records and pop music being played all day long. Within weeks of going on air, Radio Caroline had millions of listeners. It was new and exciting, and Keith Skews was one of the station's first DJs.
The only station we could listen to for pop music was at night time, and that was Radio Luxembourg. But because it transmitted from Luxembourg, the radio signal faded in and it faded out again. And along came Caroline, along came Atlanta, along came Radio London, and the disc jockeys were very personal. We spoke to the audience rather than at them.
Her name is Caroline.
Moored off the coast of Frinton was Caroline South, coming from the Mi Amigo. Its sister station, Caroline North, was anchored off the Isle of Man. It wasn't long before a host of other stations followed, basing themselves on boats and coastal forts just outside British waters and out of the reach of British law. Norwich-born Tom Edwards was a DJ at Radio City and then Radio Caroline, and remembers how dangerous it was out at sea.
The tender would leave Felixstowe docks to go out alongside Radio Caroline. If the weather was rough, the ships were literally like this, going up and down on the swell of the ocean. And you had to gauge your jump to get either on Radio Caroline for 2 weeks, or if you didn't jump on board, you just go back to shore and lose 2 weeks' work.
You don't have to look for long on the web before you come across home movies of day trips out to the pirate ships. Paul Graham, at the age of 15, caught the Viking saga from Clacton Beach out to Radio Caroline's Mi Amigo before becoming a DJ for the station.
There'd be a big queue stretching all the way down the front, mostly girls, I have to say. So the DJs were a bit like pop stars, of course, in those days. A lot of us took radios to school, listened to them secretly in the desk at school. I did that actually at one point, and some of us became a bit obsessed, I guess.
But 3 years after going on air, the party was about to come to an end. Following the murder of Radio City's Reg Calvert, the government passed a law making it illegal to work for the stations. Radio Caroline was the only one to remain on air. The operation was scaled down, with supplies coming from Holland.
If I was caught working for Radio Caroline after that bill had been passed, I would have lost my passport. I would probably have gone to prison.
Sometimes DJs were on there for weeks and weeks at a time. And then to eventually get back to Holland on a small tender, as they called it, took anything up to 24 hours, and DJs were not too well on the journey across, certainly in rough seas.
Despite the difficult times, the station continued until 1980, when the Mi Amigo sank in a storm. But 3 years later, Radio Caroline was back, broadcasting from a new home, the Ross Revenge. And this is the ship today, being lovingly restored at Tilbury Docks in Essex. The wreckage was salvaged after the ship ran aground on the Goodwin Sands in 1991. The station can still be heard today via the internet, but with a new mast going up, the dream is to have an AM licence and to broadcast from the ship out to Essex.
All we want to do is entertain the listener, and I think that aspect's been rather lost in British commercial radio.
It may be 50 years old, but there's no shortage of affection for Radio Caroline, and if it wasn't for the station and the others that followed, the sound coming over the airwaves today could be very different. Victoria Lampard, ITV News.